But that wasn't being done then. We had to fight. We ultimately had to go all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and our office was a part of that fight, and we won that. And I've prosecuted voter fraud cases. I had the county recorder come to me and say, we've got these people who, when they sign up to vote, but when they're called for jury duty, they fill out a form saying, I cannot serve on this jury because I'm not a citizen. I literally stood at a press conference. Here's this person. Here's the voter registration form. Here's the jury questionnaire. And so, so we prosecuted some of those folks. But we couldn't do it until we had those laws in place. We then got Prop 100 passed. That was passed in 2006. That ended the right to bail for illegal immigrants accused of serious felonies in Arizona. That passed by 78% of the vote. It passed by the widest margin of any ballot measure on the ballot that year. It was a measure that our office basically wrote. We worked with the legislature. The legislature referred it to the ballot. And 78% of Arizonans passed it. And then, unfortunately, the leadership of the judiciary, the courts in this county, refused to enforce Prop 100. They just refused to enforce it. They were coming up with playing all kinds of games. So the press found out about it. I denounced it. It ended up, even Governor Napolitano got involved, the legislature, the state Supreme Court. They changed the law that made it totally clear, and there was no way that the courts could get around enforcing Prop 100, because what they were doing was they were instructing their intake staff not to ask arrestees about their immigration status while they were going through court intake. Well, obviously you need to ask about their citizenship and their immigration status. That has to do with what kind of a flight risk they are, even if we didn't have Prop 100. But that's what they were doing. And so I didn't make many friends as a result of taking on those judges, quite frankly. We have 40,000 felony cases a year that we prosecute in the county attorney's office. They go through those courts. That's 40,000 opportunities to be paid back for taking on people who were refusing to enforce the law. And I have paid a price for that. Very candidly, I have paid a price for that. But I did it because it was the right thing to do. We helped draft that measure, Prop 100. 78% of Arizonans voted for it, and it deserved to become law. And you shouldn't have judicial activism thwarting it. So we had Prop 100 in 2006. In 2007, that was the year that the Legal Arizona Workers Act was passed, the employer sanctions law. Again, something brand new to this nation. No state had done that. No state had given prosecutors the authority to suspend or revoke a business license for intentionally hiring illegal immigrants. The legislature then amended the law to make it harder, even harder than it already was, to prosecute people civilly under that law, because you had to show that they hired somebody in 2008 onward and knew that person was an illegal immigrant. So that narrowed the pool considerably. And then they still didn't give us the civil subpoena powers that other government agencies enforcing civil licensing statutes have. Nevertheless, we have now had successful prosecutions. We're starting to see that under the employer sanctions law. People were understandably asking. We'd get calls once in a while, where are the employer sanctions cases? I had warned everybody when the law was passed, these are going to take a while. It typically takes, it's like a complex white-collar case or fraud case. But we've prosecuted illegal immigrants who are caught in the workplace in the raids by the sheriff's office, who are caught there for identity theft or forgery. And then we've also prosecuted managers who were hiring them, conspiring to violate those laws. And now we have successfully, in a couple of cases, brought license suspension actions regarding a couple of businesses. That's a huge sea change. And let me tell you, I share all that with you because I want you to know that your activism is making a difference and your commitment is making a difference, because illegal immigration is down in Arizona. That's astounding. I mean, if I had stood up, just to give an example, 6 years ago when I was running for county attorney the first time, and said, in 6 years, illegal immigration in this state is going to be reduced by 30%, even though we are the superhighway of illegal immigration to the entire nation. It's going to be down by 30%. It's going to be down by twice as much as it is in other states, even though we're a border state. People would have just thought that was crazy. I would have thought I was crazy. I was hallucinating. I've been drinking too much coffee or something. But that is what has happened. The Center for Immigration Studies came out with a research last year that found a reduction in illegal immigration in Arizona of 30% in just 2 years, 2007 to 2009. And you notice those years. Those years stand out because those are the years of the employer sanctions law. And you may remember, it was passed in 2007, went into effect at the beginning of 2008. Do you remember the stories about after it went into effect? First of all, it was, there's going to be chaos. There's not going to be anybody to serve people in restaurants or trim their lawns. And then what you started to see once it went into effect and the sky didn't fall, you started seeing these articles about, isn't this a tragedy? These businesses that cater to illegal immigrants are seeing a decline in their customer base. And these school districts that have large numbers of illegal immigrant children are seeing a dramatic drop in their school enrollment. And you started hearing all this anecdotal evidence of what we now know was happening, which was the employer sanctions law was the capper. It was on top of the human smuggling law and Prop 100, which gave us the tools to make sure that illegal immigrants who violate the human smuggling law have to do jail time. And then with the employer sanctions law, you put all that together, and it had a very big effect. It had a deterrent effect for the entire illegal immigrant population of Arizona. And so they had too much heat on them, and they left. And I want to make it clear, I'm a human being. I sympathize with people who come here from other countries because they don't have opportunities in their home nations, and I appreciate that, and I feel bad about that. But the reality is that we all have a responsibility to improve the nation that we're born in and to work in that nation. We can't all illegally go to another country and drive down wages and take jobs and benefits, etc. You all know this. I'm preaching to the choir on that, but I just share that with you because there is a human dimension to this, and I don't just blow that off. My wife is Mexican American. My 4 children are of Hispanic descent. I personally love the diversity of Arizona. I think Arizona is going to look a lot like my family 50 years from now. That obviously doesn't trouble me at all. But they're citizens. They're citizens. And we can have a diverse, tolerant nation of citizens and legal immigrants, as almost all of us are. Almost all of us have immigrated here from some other place, or our ancestors did. But we have to make sure it's done legally. Let me just close out. I wanted to save some time for some questions, if I'm allowed to do that. Anytime you give the podium